Next, we are told that collisions in the LHC generate temperatures more than 100,000 times hotter than the center of the sun. Here we have a curve showing the value of the ideal gas constant R. The slope of the curve shown is the ideal gas constant R, which obviously is not constant. The slope of this curve here is actually the ideal gas constant R, from which we can get the Boltzmann constant, which they use to calculate their 100,000 degrees hotter than the sun value I just mentioned. They use the Boltzmann constant as if it were linear over the entire range of energy density, which obviously from this curve it is not. Next, we read, for part of each year, the LHC provides collisions between lead ions, recreating in the laboratory conditions similar to those just after the Big Bang. Now, you notice here they're stating this as if it were a fact, those conditions similar to those just after the Big Bang. Who knows what those conditions really were? Let's be real here. Now, the ALICE collaboration uses the 10,000 ton ALICE detector to study what they're calling wrongly the quark gluon plasma. This collaboration counts more than 1,000 scientists from over 100 physics institutes in 30 countries. Now, what are all of these people doing? So it seems that not one of the ALICE collaborators have questioned or are aware that the object of their study, quark gluon plasma, is misconceived and misnamed. It seems that physicists are being rounded up in massive international scientific collaborations, especially for large budget projects. Examples include LIGO with greater than 1,000 scientists, the ATLAS experiment with over 3,000, quote, physicists, and ALICE supporting more than 1,300 members, representing only the tip of the collaboration's iceberg. These projects each probably need no more than a dozen quote unquote scientists, if even that. So the thousands of others are essentially engineers, technicians, and workers to design, build, and operate expensive equipment. Promoting engineers to quote unquote physicist status may be part of a carrot and stick tactic. Further, these collaborations may foster groupthink, lack of creativity and innovation, and above all, conformity to the cult creed, which is the belief in continuous space time, with the net result of loss of a vast amount of intellectual resources in the physics community, which might otherwise produce advances in physics. Hence, to some extent, these collaborations may represent a sort of confinement of physicists in re education or detention camps, since the cult leaders know there is nothing but tradition and superstition preventing complete collapse of the classical continuous space-time creed. Re education because doubt can creep into matters of faith. Detention to prevent thousands of talented, very smart people from engaging in free thought and pursuit of new knowledge per their original dream when students. Cult leaders know that if something is unsustainable, it will stop eventually. Hence, the giant collaborations are figuratively pumped with steroids and growth hormone to prolong leadership control and enhance acquisition of funding. Quote, Mr. Politician, could thousands of physicists all be wrong? We really need a budget increase. Making something from nothing is not cheap. So if we look at the budget for just the Large Hadron Collider, ATLAS, and CMS projects, we're going to see that for fiscal year 2018, they had 32 million. And a lot of that was for the development and design of the equipment. to be determined for this present year, and they're requesting 20 million in 2020. The LHC consists of a superconducting particle accelerator providing two counter-rotating proton beams with a design energy of 7 TeV per beam. That's going to add up to around 14 TeV or 13.5. The important point here is that these are lepton quark soup beams. They are not proton beams as commonly understood. So are the people unaware of what they're actually doing, or are they intentionally misrepresenting these lepton quark soup beams as proton beams? You are probably familiar with the electromagnetic spectrum, all the way from gamma rays at the one end down to the visible part of the spectrum onto the very long wavelength radio waves. Well, we can talk about a scientific merit spectrum as well. It seems that the projects we have looked at very briefly, and yes, there's a whole lot of more detail that we could go into, including the details of their methodology, the papers they have published, the identity of the principal investigators, which someone can investigate further. With regard to the CERN projects we've looked at, we seem to be somewhere in the ignorant range here. That matches with the budget in the 10 million or above range and with the 1,000 or more collaborators or co-authors. So we're very close to the hoax range, which might imply some degree of dishonesty, either intentionally or unintentionally. Let's say unintentionally to give everybody credit, or the no scientific merit range. But we're rather far where binary mechanics lab is up here in the milestone, very high scientific merit range, as we showed at the outset of this presentation. Now, when we go back in time, as we did in today's video, there can be a certain amount of culture shock involved. For example, this young physicist here, when I take the tour at CERN, I see dead physics theories. Finally, to sum things up, with the methodological advance of bit function analysis at BML, the 1950s UDVEC computer is to modern computing as the CERN Atlas detector and the CERN Alice detector are to modern particle physics research as done at Binary Mechanics Lab. I hope this has helped you bridge the gaps between what you read in contemporary physics literature and what you will see when you study binary mechanics in more detail. Thanks for watching.